What if you could look at a market and within seconds see not only where price is moving, but which markets are giving you the clearest opportunities right now? Because what you're about to see is a significant step forward for what we're building here in TrendForce. In this training, Dad is going to unpack some powerful new updates built around auction market theory, show you how we're using this across multiple timeframes and markets, and then reveal something completely new that makes identifying market strength far easier. And this isn't just theory. Members of our community were using this information to take real trades today, and you're about to see some of those exact moves broken down. Now, if you're new to TrendForce, we're a trading, education, and software community based here in Auckland, New Zealand. We've got a buzzing local community with regular in-person meetups and training, alongside our growing international group of students learning within our online community as well. Everything we teach sits inside our 7-stage student roadmap, designed to take someone from stage 1, potentially knowing nothing and never having placed a trade on their own, right through to stage 7, which is trading independently with confidence. Our training hub gives you the step-by-step education, and our software helps you interpret what's happening in the market, and our live Zooms give you the ongoing training and support as you learn. So there's a lot coming in this one, and make sure you stick around for what Dad reveals later, because there's a second major update coming that could completely change the way you decide which market to even look at when you sit down to place your trade. And as always, if you've got any questions about TrendForce or you'd like to know more about what we do, just reach out to me on social media. But for now, we're going to dive straight into it. So Dad, over to you.
Cool. Way to go. Thanks, Tar, for the nice introduction. And again, Tar's made a warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to our TrendForce training evening, and I'm sure tonight's going to be a lot of value. So I've been so excited for what we're going to release tonight, and I'm sure it's going to help us in our trading venture. I mean, I just love trading. I love looking at the markets. I'm wired for this. And, it can be hard in the beginning, but once you get it, you get it. And I think we've got everything needed to be successful traders. We got, of course, a great community. It's lovely doing this together in like a sense of family. We got, obviously, there's help, feedback. We've got a live feed. We've got a great indicator, great strategy. I think we've got everything in place. So we just love what we're doing. And I just love it helping people and seeing, the charts move. So we're going to jump straight into our task. I'm going to share my screen straight away. There we go. So if you are with us for the first time, it's so good having you with us. As Tar did welcome you. So here we go. So we are looking at the charts. I'm going to just start with the US 30, or called the Dow. And I mean, we love what's called auction market theory. I have highlighted the pivots tonight. So before I get into the table, you can see I've moved the table up into the right-hand corner. This is the old table. So it still worked, but wow, we're in for a very, very good upgrade tonight. So the pivots are normally this bright, but because you're getting a new update for T1, which is on a 1-minute chart, and there is one update to the pivots that I wanted to show you before we jump into the tables. So I thought the best place would be go to early this morning. So I'm just going to scroll back, and I've just highlighted a time that's going to just make it easier for us to see the change. So I'm going to use the playback feature, and I want some feedback. I've got my pointer big, and I've left out the crosshairs. So if it helps you seeing a big pointer like this, just say yep in the chat. But I would just want to show you just a little update to our pivots. So I'm just going to go, I think 432, just to illustrate just an update to the pivots. So basically our pivots have gone from PP, which is the central pivot point where they're calculated from, then R1 to R6, and also S1 just hidden behind our Friday Value Area Discovery label. So S1 down to S6. But you do get days, we would call them expansion days, where price may go beyond S6. So most people who use these kind of pivots will only go to this level. So what I've done, I've programmed in another 6 levels. And you'll see it played out amazingly today. So they will now go to 12. But to avoid the clutter, I've programmed our indicator to only turn on the next batch of levels if we actually get there. So many days, price won't get anywhere near S6. It may hover around S3 or S4. And today they are quite close together because they are dependent on the previous day's range. So I just want to show you what it would look like so you don't get a fright. So, I mean, there is a big candle coming up, but at the moment, S6 and obviously R6, which is resistance, S6 is support, are the extreme levels. So I've added some more. So if I just do the replay and just play that out a bit, you will see, now suddenly you can see they've jumped in a split second. So what happened was price broke the S6. And as soon as it broke S6, what's going to happen is that the indicator will then plot all the way up to S12. So the chances of price going beyond S12 is highly unlikely. I mean, it was a Saturday morning, I was testing, and I thought, let me add 6, see what happens. And sure enough, the low was S12. And actually today on the Dow also, price didn't get any lower. S12 was kind of the low for today. So you can see, just for interest, how it immediately, gave us an auction signal from our auction engine, pivot continuation. What I liked about this was so quick, but yet it still picked up that it had broken through 2 levels, S5, S6, and gave us an S7 target. And you can see, by the way, the table looking good. This is the old table on the right. You can have a look there. I've put it there so you can see the new one in a minute. But if we just play that out very quickly, you will see that price will drop very quickly. You can watch the table in the right-hand corner, and it's giving auction targets. So we love auction market theory, and you can see the table looking quite bearish there, and with every signal there's a target. So as price, it will tell us what's happening around different levels. I mean, the Albert Bunch today making rangy. So that's basically just, you'll see these 12 targets. Now we'll leave it for now. May just show you one other auction that played out. So once they plot up until the open, they will stay there the whole day. So we can see today where we're at now. We're now live. Let's just go back to this morning and have another look at one more auction before we look at the table. So this morning, I think I highlighted 432. We'll just look at how our auction market theory plays out. So we'll just put on the replay function, and hopefully it's going to work. And I think we just want to start somewhere around here, 432. And you'll see how auction market theory works. So we've developed an auction engine that gives signals and targets. So right now we can see here we've broken through S5, which is a pivot, and it's telling us there's a continuation. So we've got a signal pivot continuation, then it gives us the target S6. We can see at the moment the table's not very strong, but the new table will make it easier. So if we just press a few buttons here, let's just see how this plays. I just wanted to highlight something. We can see that the weekly POC is a very strong auction. So we like that. Now this level does move because it's based on active volume, and it is the start of the week. So we can expect movement with the weekly POC, but it's given us a signal, weekly POC continuation, and also a pivot continuation. So there's 2 auctions playing out, and then we've got the one target is S7, and the other target is our next weekly target, our value area low. So again, the auction engine is going to tell us what's happening while things are playing out. There can be, rejections and continuations. So the auction engine tells us that. So it's testing that level, which was one of our rules, tested key levels with confluence. So at the moment, we can see the weekly POC is going right through what we call a mid-volume band. So it's probably going to come back and retest, and then we can see that taking place on this particular candle now. We've got a weekly POC continuation. We've broken through the weekly POC. We've also broken through the S6. So there are 2 auctions playing out at the same time. One is a close target. Other one is further away. So if we just let that all play out, you can see eventually price will make its way down to the target point, and there it's hit the target. So it's hits and rejected. So that trade played out nicely. I think there was about 60 pips. And we can see also with this will stay on the new table, but we do get a sell signals will plot, as market volume unfolds during the day. So that's just the update. We can see again that we've got 12 levels, normally just 6, but because we broke S6 earlier in the day, it plotted the other 6 levels. And so it's up to S12, and that's where price ended. Price didn't drop below. It just stopped right on about S12 this morning. So you will now get another 12 levels, 6 on each side, above R6 and below S6. So for the expansion days, you will have some good targets for one of our workhorse auction engines, which are our pivots. All right, so let's just turn off the replay function, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about the table. Before I show it to you, just talk a little bit about how it all works, and then we will show you the new table. And I think I may just go to the NASDAQ for that. So here is the NASDAQ. There have been some nice moves playing out. So this is live now. You can see here that price has made a lot of auctions, just between a bit of a narrow range today, but you can see price moving clearly between our pivot levels, and each one produces a target. And there is our table functioning. So just about the table, before I show you the new table, and then we have got a big surprise towards the end, which we are excited about, Ty and I. So just how the table works in case people are unfamiliar. So it's mainly a confluence tool. So it helps us to read the chart and interpret market behavior. So we can use it for confirmation entries. So it's very useful for that. So it tells us very quickly if the market is trending or not and helps us to interpret the chart. So, I mean, a question we should be asking, and the longer I trade, the more I realize is that what is the market bias? That's the language that many traders would use. So what is the market bias? And this table really helps us in terms of what the market bias is. And so what do I mean by that? So basically, is it bullish, which means, it's largely green and price is moving up, or is it bearish? So right now we can see, or is it ranging? That's the third option. So right now, if we took a look at the chart, clearly we can see that we're more bearish than bullish. There's a lot of red in our table. So it really helps us, a lot in terms of interpreting the market. Now, market bias is not just looking at one time frame. So many often, I've looked at lots of other people talking about trading, and many will just talk about the daily bias, and they will, make trades based on the daily bias. But our table, what makes our table unique is that we look at multiple time frames. So we've got 8 different time frames: the 1 minute M1, we got the 3 minute, the 5 minute, the 8 minute, the 15 minute. Then on the 1 hour, we recently added, the 15, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and also the daily time frame. So it's looking across multiple time frames at the same time. So it's obviously it's hundreds of lines of code to figure that out. It's quite intricate, the coding, but it gives obviously very, very good results. So one look at the table can tell you what the market is doing. So it's also, it's very complex. If you look at most trend tables, and there are plenty around that people have created, most just have 2 colors. They have red and they have green. And obviously we stick to those kind of similar colors too. And basically it's green if there's an uptrend, and it's red if it's in a downtrend. So they're normally very simplistic, and they're normally just looking at EMA crossover. So maybe, 20 crosses 50, and then it's green if it's a bullish crossover, or, red if it's a bearish crossover. So they're normally very simple. They don't give much more information than that. I mean, a crossover would only be 10% of the information that's in our table. So they don't give enough to give the strength of the market. So our table measures way more to give us, an accurate sense of the strength of the market on any given day. So it measures a few things. The first thing, I can maybe just make a little bit of a blank screen here to illustrate. The first thing it mentions is trend. So let me just see if I can just pick a tool here. So if I picked, I'm just using the trend line as an example. So for example, if you looked at this line, is that in an uptrend or downtrend? I mean, that should be quite simple. That is in an uptrend. So it's measuring the market. There we have an example of that's what an uptrend looks like. And likewise, a downtrend would be the opposite way. So it's telling you which way the market is headed. Is it heading up, or is it heading down, or is it basically flat? So if trend is flat like that, I'll just make that a solid line. If trend is flat, then of course the market is ranging and it's going nowhere. So our indicator is measuring the trend. It not only measures trend, but it also measures momentum. So there are different definitions of momentum, but for me, momentum is the strength of a trend. So we can see here, we've got an uptrend. So our indicator would then, add a score to that, and we got a score out of 10. 10 is very strong. But if, for example, the trend was like this, we would say, wow, that's got not only an uptrend, but there's also very strong momentum. For price to push up like that, there'd have to be a lot of momentum. So it's measuring trend and momentum. That would be an uptrend with strong momentum. And likewise, just to complete the picture, that would be a downtrend with strong momentum. So it's measuring exactly what trend is doing. Is it up? Is it down? Is it going sideways? Is it strongly up, or is it strongly down? So those are the 2 things. I'll just delete those just to keep my chart nice and clean. Then the other thing it mentions is volatility. Now, volatility is good in trading. We want volatility. Volatility means the market is moving. So sometimes the market can be ranging. So if the market is ranging, then price will have very little volatility. It'll just be moving up and down like this, as the market unfolds. When the market is volatile, it looks like this is what I like when there are big waves. So the trend table is measuring, is the market volatile? In other words, has the market got waves in, which is what we want as traders. We don't want to trade like this when it's ranging. So those first three things are, it's measuring the trend, it's measuring momentum, and it's measuring volatility. Then it also, although we don't have many EMAs in our strategy, let me just delete these drawings quickly. These three, although we don't have many EMAs, which we're mainly trading off levels, it's still important to know, because the EMAs do affect a lot of traders. A lot of people do trade off them. So it's also measuring what direction the EMAs are pointing in. For example, I'd like to know before taking a buy, going long, if the moving averages are pointing up. So if they're pointing up, then this table scores higher. If they're pointing down, it'll also score higher, but red. So pointing up strongly will affect the green score for bullish. Pointing down strongly, like now we got more of a downtrend, they'll go more red pointing down. And then the other one it mentions is where price is in relation to the moving averages. Obviously, if you're above, moving averages can be areas of support and resistance. So before I take a buy, I'd like to know, is price above all the moving averages or is it in between? And likewise, for a sell, I'd prefer price to be below all the moving averages or is it in between? So those are the 5 things that make up the score that are out of 10. And so that obviously helps us interpret the market. So when you got something like on the 3-minute now, we've got, there's a 9 out of 10. That means, we strongly, especially the high time frames, when they are trending, there's a higher probability that price is going to reach its target if you're in an auction. We'll talk more about that later. So the other changes we've made to the table, before I show you the new table, I'm sure you want to see it. Now it's going to look pretty similar, just with one really good change. The changes you can't see is that in the coding, I've done what is called standardizing the data. So the whole table, it is off. Although I trade in Heikin-Ashi candles, all the calculations are off normal candles. So that's called standardizing the data. That makes it way more accurate. Sometimes, Heikin-Ashi can be a bit more optimistic, but now you're going to get much more real data in the table and it is way more accurate. I'm going to show the 2 tables playing off against each other, in the talk tonight. So you can just see how accurate and more easy it is to interpret the new table. So the first thing is standardized data. So it's off standard candles. So it doesn't matter if you use Heikin-Ashi candles, which I use. So the other thing we do get signals appearing. This signal is a bit obscured by some of the trading view icons here, but the signal column, that'll be off normal candles, standard candles, not Heikin-Ashi. So sometimes you may get a sell signal, for example, that you won't see with a Heikin-Ashi candle. But that's good because that's very strong and very accurate. But if you do get a Heikin-Ashi signal, like I often trade off, that's great. They're also absolutely perfect. So what we wanted to do with the whole indicator has been standardized now. So if you're using Heikin-Ashi or normal candles, you will get the chart will plot exactly the same. So again, then the second change is far more accurate. I think I've mentioned that. You'll see when you compare the tables, you see here we've got a signal going off, just gone off here. So we can see Heikin-Ashi, we've got a sell, and they only will last for a minute. So maybe on the standard candles, that's still busy plotting, but they will plot, the signals will plot in the table. So the data is way more accurate. So it's a real upgrade. You won't notice it, just looking at the table, but behind the scenes, it is really been upgraded. So the data and the scores are way more accurate. And then the last thing, before we actually have a look at it, is that it's way easier to interpret. So if you look at the current strength column, you have to interpret 3 things to get a picture of the market. You have to interpret a symbol. So is it a triangle, up or down, or is it a square? You also have to interpret a color. Is it bullish, bearish, or ranging? And then you also have to interpret a number. So because we have a busy indicator, auction market theory, we want to follow the auctions and the key levels. I'm trying to build this indicator in such a way that it takes less mental power to absorb and look before we make decisions. So you had to look at three different things, but in the new table, you only have to look at, it's what you'll see now, and to turn it on now, it's way easier to look at. So let me turn it on. Are you ready for our new table? I've got it turned off. And you will see as it turns on, it'll take just a few seconds to load. It's going to appear over here. And it's busy calculating a lot of things. So there we go. Boom. So that is our new table. So what I've done is I've done what's called a heat map. So in the coding, we've got scores, but then also I've given different shades of color to different scores. So that'll be quite easy to see. So 1, 2, and 3 will have the same colors because you don't have to take a heat map that far. So 1, 2, and 3, whether it's bullish or bearish, have the same colors, but from 4 onwards, the colors will slowly shade. So if you look at those two charts, you can see, I think it's way easier to interpret our new chart, our new table, because of the colors. One look, we don't need the symbols anymore because the colors are nicely coded. One look, and it is so easy to work on. So here we can see that there is a slightly bullish uptrend on the daily, but the rest is all down. So we can see the 15-minute is 8. That's quite a strong downtrend. The 1 hour is 7. 4 hour, not as strong, but we can see that currently here, we can see that if we took one look at this chart, we can see that it's obviously very bearish. So if I took one look at that chart, there's no ways I'm going to take a buy or go long. Absolutely not. So that is just how it is. Way easier to interpret one look. And that's what we've said. I said it at our live market analysis. I think Mark was asking about the table, and I just said, don't fight the table. So that's what I've learned. If you want to be a successful trader, don't try too many counter trend tricks. All right. Look at the bias of what the table is telling you and stick with that, especially if the higher time frames are very strong. At the moment, there's not quite so clear with a bullish 3 and a bearish 5 on the H4 and the daily, but you can see clearly I would never ever consider taking a buy based on what the table is telling me. So you can see that maybe now and then, they eventually will get similar, but these numbers are way more accurate than the old table. So that is what it looks like. So that's an example of a bearish market, very strong. That immediately tells you only go for sells, don't look for any buys in a market like that. So let's have a look how it plays out. And then we got a surprise coming up. So I want to let's just go to early this morning. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn the pivots off now because we don't need to look at that auction. Those play out all the time. So I'm scrolling down and I'm going to turn our pivots off and turn the auction engine off just to clear the chart a bit. And let's just go to this morning and just have a look at how the table plays out and maybe look at some auctions with the table. So we're looking at the NASDAQ. We can see, remember, this is the current time frame playing out. But I want to go to this morning. Let's have a look. I think I just made a note here to look at 4:05. And let's just see how the table played out. So using the replay function, sometimes we have to load it more than once. So we'll just see if it plays out okay. So I'm going to go to 4:05 this morning. And let's just have a look at the table and maybe look at some auctions playing out and how the table may help us. So it'll always take a few seconds to load. And we'll also compare the two tables. We can see the new table loads a little bit quicker than the old. So here we've got a sell signal. Price has just broken below the mid-volume band. And we can see so we've got some key auction levels. We've got the weekly POC. Now remember this, earlier in the week, because this is based on live volume, this will be a little bit unsettled. So it's only Tuesday. So by the time we get to sort of, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these lines become more rigid. So we also got the Friday POC, the Friday Valley Area Low. Those are sitting very, very close to each other because there wasn't a lot of range the day before. But let's just have a look at how this plays out. So we can look at both tables. You can see, looking what I have changed, I've got rid of all the gray. So you can see, looking at the old table, it's very difficult to pick out the bias. We only got one red, like a 7 downtrend, and the rest will be difficult to see. But we can see here, looking at the new table, immediately we can see at the moment there's more of a bullish bias. We can see we've got a lot more green than red. But let's look at the table play out. We can see that the new one lags a bit. So that was not on 8 at the start, whereas that already had our 8 there. So the new table will be quicker. It will update faster. So even just after one candle, we can see that some of the bullish bias has disappeared. So let's look at a few, just look at this auction play out here. So we're going to start hopefully getting some signals, and I'm just going to go manually initially, and then we'll let it run. So here we go. We can see now we've got the weekly POC. We've got weekly POC, a continuation. But remember, our law is tested level. So it may just test a bit more. It's still testing the POC. But look, we got a sell signal on the 8. So that's quite a high, much higher time frame. So remember, the signals will stay on for as long as the time frame. That's how I've set it in the coding. So an 8-minute signal, if it stays, will stay on for 8 minutes. So we can see already that the bias, even just after a handful of candles, the bias of the table has changed. Can we see now we're looking way more, not strongly, but we're more bearish than bullish. When this move started, it was more bullish than bearish, but not strong. We can see those numbers are low. But again, let's just watch the table. We've got this auction in progress here. So that's probably going to begin to run in a minute. So it's telling us on every candle, we can see this is telling us we're rejecting the weekly POC. And with auction market theory, how we've got our auction engine, it's now giving us the target, the reject target, the weekly value area low. So price is moving down. So if we just keep an eye also in the table, we can see we've got that 8-minute sell signal. You see it's come on later on the old table. That's already gone on for 8 minutes. We've gone through 8 candles, so that is now off. And we can see prices now moving down towards the target. Maybe it'll retest. I can't remember how this played out. But we trust our signals, so we can see now we're just about to hit the POC. Our other POC has moved because it is flexible at the start of the week, and it's now testing the levels again. And we can see now, look at this, the 15-minute, we got a sell signal on a 15-minute. So this is also to motivate us to stay in trades. That's a standard sell signal. It is not bright. If it's bright, that would indicate it's stronger, but it's still nevertheless a sell signal. And we can see now, look at the table now, is beginning to get a bit brighter. So now we've got our second auction signal. There were others. I've left off the pivot signals. They were going off. But we can see 2 auctions are playing out now. We've got our weekly POC with the signal and the target. And although this was a very small trade, it's nevertheless, we've broken the prior day POC and it's given us that target. But again, just wanted to show the table in action. We've still got that 15-minute sell signal. That's a good chance. And here we go. We can see that now we've broken below the value area low. And so the label's changed. Prior day value area low, price discovery. And for those who've been following our training, I love price discovery. Why? Because price tends to accelerate once we break through a low or a high of a certain value area. So auction market theory is price is always moving between, matching value levels. So in this case, we're looking between the weekly POC and the weekly value area low. Here, the prior day POC and the prior day value area low. And the auction engine generates signals for us, and we can see our table is looking bullish. Now, once again, you can see the difference. Comparing the old table, on the top, you can see a lot of gray, not really clear on the market bias. But looking here, we can see that 5 of the 8 time frames now are showing more bearish than bullish. And look, the 8 is at 7, the 15 is at 6. So it's beginning to become more bullish. Now, remember, when a label goes to gray, we often see an acceleration. So let's just see how this plays out. There we go. So we've now, this is going to test that level. It sometimes tests, but again, there we go. We often find a lot of action around key levels. So then it just tested that level a bit, and we also tested our lower volume band. You can see a big candle there. And we're heading now, we've now actually hit the target on the next candle. You can see that, let's just see, we go down again, and we'll just watch that play out. I think it's in the next candle or two, it hits the, there we go. So it's now hit. So again, we hit the target. So that, I think it was, I don't know, 60 odd pips. I can't remember this. Maybe it wasn't as much this morning. What is that? That was a small trade, 25 odd pips. But it wasn't a lot of volume. But you can see, look at the table now. We can see now we got a 1 hour. I mean, that won't always stay if the market is testing a level. But look at the table. We've now got 10 on the M1. We got 3 sevens and an 8. So we can see old table not as accurate. We've got on the H1, we got 3 bullish. We have the old table 2, with gray, which means more, not very strong. So new table again, way more accurate. And again, we now have broken the weekly value area low. So I'll just let that play out before we move on to what I want to show you next. So we can see now, when we look at that now, we can see now price is falling off a cliff. That's because once we break these value area lows, you can see a little, may not be so clear on the zoom, but we have a down arrow there showing, just in case you get confused, the down arrow. And look how strong the table's looking now. So very, very bearish table. Just those 2 high time frames, not very strong. So I think we'll just won't have to play that all the way out, but we can see, wow, they're going all the way down. We got that 1 hour sell signal, which is higher time frame. And eventually I think it reached, it settled over there. But again, you can see the strength of our new table giving us way more accurate information. And I've taken more trades based on that particular table. So that tells you quite a bit about our new table. I mean, there are other auctions we can look at if there's time towards the end. But next, I want to just look at what we've got as a surprise in store for us. So I'm going to say goodbye.
There is always more.
But wait, there's more. So I'm going to turn off and delete. That old table is now gone. There we go. Say goodbye to the old and in with the new.
And
So
before
let's
you show
just-
the next one, Dad, because no one can see the chat in the Zoom on the recording,
Yeah.
I think you'd be very encouraged just to, what people are saying, loving it, new, nice and shiny, etc. And then there's a few guys, I think Marcus and Jordash, who are commenting on the fact that the table was the thing that got them into trades today. And I think
Wow.
even Jordash was talking about, the table helped me stay in the trade I took today. And that was a banger. So,
See,
guys,
that was
if
the old
anything,
table.
it's only getting easier.
Yeah. Yes, especially when I mean, it's just really, really, really good now. I mean, this obviously, this thing really fires. If we just look at, let's just quickly, before we go to the next step, at the moment, time is on my side. So let's just look at the live market now. There's been quite a big move. So you can see these moves here today that, big moves today. And let's just have a look at the table playing that out. So let's just go back for fun. Let's have some fun looking at the new table before we take it. So let's see what the table was looking like as we were crossing what we call the lower volume band. So we'll just give that a few seconds to load. So we can see here we got a sell signal on the 1 minute, and we can see slightly mixed now. There's no real strong trend at this point. It's not really telling us a lot. It's kind of bullish and bearish, a bit rangy, but we'll just let it play. So you watch now. Look there now. There was a sell signal, and we can see now how the table begins to warm up. So now I've taken some of the auction lines off. We also want to protect our intellectual property with a lot of people looking tonight. But we can see now, once the trade starts to move, you can see now that we've got quite a strong bearish bias. And there's another big drop coming. Look at that now. So look at that. You can see now, boom, when you start seeing the table begin to light up like that. Now, it just happens today that the higher time frames are slightly lower. But you'll notice in your own back testing, I tell you, when the daily and the H4 and the hour are like up in the high numbers, close to 10, those trades are just so easy. They become the big winners. So the high time frames are not really playing ball today, but still you can see, look at that table. You can see the different colors. You can see the heat map. May not be clear on the Zoom, but when you download it, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're all different colors. So we call that a heat map to give us a greater, ability to interpret the market bias. So we can see again, price played out, and I think that was probably the end of that move down. But I just wanted to show, let's just see if there was another move down. There probably was after that or not. So you can see it's going to help you a lot in terms of, let me just turn that off, in terms of what trades to take. You don't want to fight the table. That is, if you think of anything tonight, in fact, I did move down again after that. There was another move. Don't fight the table. So if you use the table just to help you with confluence, it's going to greatly improve your profitability as a trader. So now we've got something exciting coming. So we have got another little indicator we're going to add. Now, some of you may have been familiar with our MACD, our version 4. They've been with us for a long time. We had a table there, but I've revamped, and what I've done, I've translated this into our whole instruments table. So here we go. You're going to get this tonight too. And this has got some major features. So here we go. Boom. This is what you're going to get tonight. You're going to get a whole instruments table that's got the heat map fitted to it. And this is phenomenal. This is where I took trades this week, because I just had this table looking what was trending. And of course, I moved to the trending market. But this is massive, guys, because now you can look across indices to work out, when you turn on your computer in the morning, afternoon, or evening, what market is trending. So at the moment, we are on the Nasdaq. So we can see this is the middle column here. Occasionally, it may lag one or two numbers. You wait once you load it the first time, but generally, it's pretty accurate now. I think all the numbers are matching. That's the NAS column. So basically, we've taken the strength column and we've made a whole table. So this is our new kind of TrendForce table. So, this takes a massive amount of data to produce. So, what we've got here, we've got basically our 17 colors. So 0 is black. You probably picked that up. 1, 2, and 3 are all the same colors, whether it's bullish or bearish. Then from 4 onwards, there's a heat map where the colors change with the gradient of how strong that current time frame is based on that current candle. So it gives you a huge amount of data. So I worked out, there are 8 time frames. There are 17 possible colors for each square, plus you got 4 instruments. So there are, I think it's almost 550 combinations. But I tell you what, this table is, I believe, going to revolutionize our trading, to be able to look at all the markets in one go and work out which one is better to trade. So before, I'd often flick through all the charts trying to work out, should I trade the Dow or the Nasdaq? Now, one look at the table tells me exactly what I should be trading. But at the same time, I also have that on all the time. So if the market shifts, sometimes it may be rangy, but things can change, as you saw, very quickly. A market can trend. That's why last week I took a couple of quick scalps. It's purely based on the table and what it showed me. So the default will be bottom left, but I didn't want you looking across the screen like you're watching a game of tennis with, the ball going backwards and forwards. So I just put them both together so we could have a good look. And I've also turned off the MACD tonight just because we want to concentrate on the table. So there's quite a bit I need to tell you. So basically, it's a direct translation. So the strength column there is then projected in the strength column in the table. But this has got a lot of different features. Now, you can put this anywhere. I've just put it randomly, on my 1 minute chart, but you could put it anywhere. So, I've got it here. You could have this, you could just copy it, for example, and you could put it on your 3 minute chart. It can go anywhere. So I'll just let that load there. It'll pop up, in the bottom right-hand corner once it's got a lot of information to load. So you can put it there. You can put it anywhere you want, and you can have 2 tables with different instruments. I won't show you how to do that now. Well, I will show you in a minute. So it doesn't have to go on the M1 chart. You can put it wherever you want. And again, I've put as many possible combinations to edit it as possible. So there are things you'll need to know. So first of all, let's look at itself. So you may, runtime errors. Sometimes TradingView can't cope. So you'll get a little message in red saying runtime error. You just click that button. It'll just replot it. Sometimes, because this is using a massive amount of data, if you're not a coder, you wouldn't understand. But each time you want your indicator to choose information from another time frame. You actually have to ask TradingView to get information from another time frame. So, for example, if you want to show the 3 minute, the 5, you've got to ask TradingView to get information on each one of those time frames. Plus, you're asking TradingView to also get information in this table from multiple instruments. So choose power. Sometimes it may just disappear because I've taken coding beyond what it was designed to do, but I like to push the limits. So if that happens, instrument strength table, there's a little info button here. If it does, I've got this, I'll read this paragraph. It says this table uses a lot of processing power. As a result, on occasions, TradingView will not cope. This may result in the table disappearing. If this happens, you click on the three, and then it gives you the instructions. So if it happens, it's very simple. You just click on those three circles, which is on this is on the indicator tab for the table, the T. You click on those. You just press copy, then just delete the table. I just go through it and you just right click and paste. So don't reload it so they did it straight away. So the reason you do that is because it will save all your settings. So if you've adjusted the table size, the table position, or your instruments, it's going to save that for you. So it's very quick. You just basically copy it, delete the old one, paste the new one, and you're away. All right, so let's look at the other features here. So you may need to look at the video again, but as usual, table position, the default is bottom left. That's how I like to look at it. So you can put it anywhere you want on the chart, on any chart, your 3 minute. I've got all the positions there. You can put it where you want. I've got extra large because I just wanted you to be able to see on the Zoom. You can have small for a cell phone or iPad, and then you can work out the size you want. The background colors you can edit if you want, but not really necessary. Then the time frames you can turn off. You don't have to have all the time frames. So you can turn off the daily and the H4 if you want. You don't have to have all the time frames on. You can skip out. It will take a while because there's a lot. It has to measure across all those time frames. You can condense it. I've taken off the 4 hour and the daily. And then, of course, you can put them on again. Like I just clicked them on there, they're back. Then there's the default. I've got the order. You can see Dow, NASDAQ, Gold, and Nikkei. I've got those in that particular order. And then the key thing, you can also mix up the column positions. So I've got, column 1, 2, 3, and 4 if you want. You can put them in any order you want. So you can mix them up as you wish, change the order of the columns. You can also obviously delete columns. So if you only want 3 columns, you only want to look at, you're not interested in the Nikkei, you just turn off the Nikkei, and then again, you'll see in a second or two, the Nikkei column will disappear. So you don't have to have everything on all the time. So we'll just stick it back on for demonstration. There we go. And that should appear. There we go. The Nikkei's back. Now, the key thing is this. In PineScript, you can't specify the particular broker for what you're trading. So for example, I've deliberately made this change. Let's just go back to the Dow. So we'll just go back to the Dow. And sometimes brokers, their feeds may differ slightly. So let's just check now. We got 43113334. So there's a slight difference there. Look, the daily is showing 1 and there it's showing a 3. So the reason can be, there could just be a delay in the feed. It may, when the next candle changes, right itself, but it can boil down to the broker. So this broker, I'm with Black Bull, so we can see you can't program in the broker. So it chooses random brokers. Sometimes every time you load it may be different. Sometimes they may all be Black Bull. So if you want to change to Black Bull, so I want to make sure that my table is matching, this table will always match the broker. So we got Black Bull markets. So all you do is you click there and just choose Black Bull markets. So there we go, Black Bull. And you can see it's chosen Black Bull. Likewise, for gold, we got I want to just change that to Black Bull. So then we got to just look down, scroll down for the black. Where's Black Bull hiding? Here we go, Black Bull markets. And then likewise, we got Pepperstone for the JPN 225. We want Black Bull. So we just want to choose Black Bull. So you only have to do that once. So once you save that, it'll just load. And if you click save, once that's loaded, you click save, then it will save those brokers for you. That should save them all the time. So that's how you make sure that the columns match. So you can see now, look, we got 1 and 1. So before, there was a difference between the Black Bull broker and the other particular broker, was it Pepperstone or something. That makes sure they match. Now, the beauty of this table is that you can choose whatever you want to trade. We just use common instruments. So if, for example, you're not interested in the Nikkei, you want to change to Bitcoin, then you can change one of the columns to Bitcoin, or you could keep this table as it is. And then in the 3-minute chart, change this to, gold to the British pound to the euro. You can change what you want and have as many tables as you want. But I'll just go through the process. If, for example, you are a Bitcoin trader, I know Jeremy likes Bitcoin, you want to change the last column, 4, which is the Nikkei to Bitcoin. You just click on there, and in the change symbol, you just delete that and you just put in BTCUSD, and then you choose your broker. So you have to look down there to see where Black Bull Markets is. There are Black Bull Markets, or wherever your broker is. And it will take, because there's massive processing power here. Then also we want to also change this column. So we've changed heading 4 to Nikkei. We want to change that to Bitcoin. You simply type in whatever your abbreviation is, Bitcoin. So there we go. And that should change in a little while. That will show the Bitcoin column. So right now we can see, still doing it. There we go, Bitcoin. So that's looking at Bitcoin. The other nice thing, I've just had a brief look when I was doing some research over the weekend. TAR often references the dollar index. Now you can trade the dollar index. It's crazy. And it behaves exactly like all our other indices, and it does the opposite. So let's just change gold. If we wanted to change gold to the DXY, and I'd like time maybe in the next training to talk about it. So I've already found out Bitcoin's what you got to type in. So if you look down on my instruments here, DX.F, that's Bitcoin's dollar index, which is crazy that you can trade that now. So we go to our table and we go to settings, and we want to change instrument 3 to the dollar index. So we simply click on there, and it was, what is it? It was DX, sorry, let me get it right. DX.F, was it? DX.F, that's correct. So we want to change column 3 to the dollar index. TAR raves about it. We go to column 3, we simply delete that, and we go DX.F. And then we choose Black Bull Markets. There we go, because that's the individual coding for that. And then we also want to change the column. So we're not looking at gold here. We're looking at the DXY. So we could let's just call it DX. We know what that is. And you click OK, and that's going to change to the dollar index. So that'll take a second, but of course, once you've saved it, there we go. Now we can look at Bitcoin, the dollar index. Now you could again change all 4 of these and put it on the 3-minute chart. So, not many of us trade currency pairs. I'll do one more currency pair. Look, I haven't practiced this, but just from my experience, let's just change the Dow. And we want to keep the Dow. Let's change the Dow. We want to do British pound to the US dollar. So I think it's I haven't practiced this, GBPUSD. There we go. And we can look down for Black Bull Markets. So we trade the pound to the dollar. Then we also then want to change. This is now the British pound. We just call it BP. If you're trading currency pairs, it'll work for anything. So give the indicator, the table, a little bit of time. And that should then show British pound in a minute. There we go. So we can see that's what happened. British pound, look at that. We can see now the daily is 7. That's quite strong. So it's good. We can see the other markets are a bit rangy, but the trades to look for is when you see an instrument that's trending high on the daily or the 4-hour. Those are ones to look at. So let's just quickly look at the British pound, just for interest. Have I got it on? I'm not sure if I got the British pound here. Oh, here we go, GPB USD. Let's just look at what that's looking like currently. And let's have a look. It may not tell us now. It's not. So there we go. So there's the table, and that's the British pound. And we can see we got the same broker. So those tables are matching nicely. British pound should match that table over there. So that is how the table works. So I've got a few things. I'm not quite finished yet. So hopefully you may need to look at the technical things, but you can, again, edit it how you want, leave out columns, leave out time frames, trade what you want. But for example, now, if I was looking at the table, the NAS looks the best to trade right now. So if we just go to the NASDAQ, let's just see what's happening there. The NASDAQ, we can see based on that table, the NASDAQ is trending the most. So let's give it a few seconds to load. So we can see this column is matching here. We can see again, this looks pretty good. So we can see here, very, very bullish. Again, we do the high time frames are not so strong at the moment, but H17, that's quite good. So that means there's a higher probability. Again, so looking at the table, the market bias is bearish. There's no ways I'm going to be taking any buys on the NAS if I was trading now. Go with the market bias. Again, tonight's takeaway sentence, do not fight the table. So, yep. So Marcus, can you save the default? Yep. Save the default settings. That's the whole point. The only thing is if you turn your computer off, I'm not sure. I haven't experimented with that, but if you saved it here, it's going to save those settings. So there we go. So that is the table. So, I mean, I'll put these notes. I won't have time. I mean, I've got a whole another lecture to go, or maybe I will save that. I think we need another Tuesday on this tab, because this is too good to gloss over. I've got a whole training on, using the table to the next level for spotting the auctions. But I think if I do that now, it's going to be too much information. But if you're happy, we'll talk in the week as we do and have our meetings. I think we will do a whole session on the table and looking at how to pick up the winning auctions based on what's trending. I mean, right now, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, that's trending. That's mainly bearish. The numbers aren't high. The dollar index is bearish. The British pound bullish. So let's just look at Bitcoin quickly. It's not very strong, but let's just go to, where's my Bitcoin hiding? Bitcoin USD. And let's have a look here. We're at 64,000. Come on. How many hodls have we got here in our community? But you can see again, if you look at a table like that, so this column draws attention to Bitcoin. That's very bullish. Look, the numbers are not high. So we'd like to see the numbers a bit higher, but definitely I'm not going to be looking to take sells right now. Look, the table may have been different going back, an hour or so, but go with the market bias. Those are the safe auctions. So I'm not sure, Jeremy, hodl. Yeah, I'm a hodl. Your trend is your friend. Yep, Jason, that's absolutely right. John Wick fights the tail. I like that. All right, I'm not sure if I've missed any questions, but I think I've packed in a lot. We're close to 9 o'clock.
Absolutely smashed it. I don't see questions. I just see lots of thank yous and wows, and that was helpful. And yeah, anyway, impressives and the odd meme with John Wick. Good fun. Far out. That is looking hot, guys. We have a heat
map. Someone put a thumbs up for the big having the bigger. Was it helpful?
Yeah, people appreciate the bigger cursor for sure.
Okay, so we can do that as a practice, the bigger cursor.
I love it. I'm getting the odd message. Someone saying mind blowing. I love it. For all you guys seeing this for the first time, if you're not part of our community, that can happen. It's there is nothing else anywhere on the internet, I believe, that has been coded like this, and very, very, very few people have the level of insights on the market like Dad does. So we are blessed, to say the least. Least over in South Africa, so good with triple fire emojis. There we go. Well, Dad, that was some hot stuff. I don't know if you've got anything else.
I'll stop share and hand back to you.
I won't unpin you just yet. I'll pin myself and join you up here.
Yep.
As we sign off. But guys, there we go. We have got updates. So I've just been almost breaking a sweat with my mouse and keyboard. You have all got that T1 update, so you've all got a brand new trend table, and I've already sent you all a whole nother indicator with that other table. So all of you have got it. You should have access. Go click on indicators, click on invite only, and you'll find it in there ready to add to your chart, whichever one you please. So all good. Can't access the table yet. Shut down TradingView, reload it. That's one of the ways you can do it. I've sent it. I'll double check. I've sent it to everyone, but I just went methodically through one heck of a spreadsheet and manually sent it to each of you. So you should all have it. If you don't, shut down TradingView, reload it, start from there, and then send me a message. And by tomorrow, you'll all have it for sure. I've got a few hours of editing to get this thing up online for everyone who couldn't join us live. But guys, stacked house. Thank you so much for tuning in live. Always such a blessing and so much more fun to be able to do this and have Q&A. We do this every Tuesday and every Tuesday night and every Thursday morning. So our live analysis, we're on Zoom as well. Thursday mornings, Dad's screen sharing just like he did tonight, but he's walking us through live auctions as they're taking place, commenting on what to look for, what to be aware of, what to ignore, basically how to trade safe. That is the whole aim of the game. So capital preservation, trading safe, and helping you get from stage 1 through to stage 7, which is learning how to trade independently with confidence. So we have a student roadmap. If you haven't seen it, I can send it to you at some point, but it shows you the 7 stages. Stage 1 is our free course. So you can go to trendforce.co and put in your details there, and you can grab a free course. 4 videos, only 48 minutes long. I reshot them, re-edited them, chopped them down as much as possible. It's got a 64-page PDF. The goal of that is to give you a crash course in all of the basics of trading so you can get your feet wet and learn the basics of terminology. And then we take all the important stuff a whole lot further on the inside. So stage 2 is 4 videos I've made specifically on TradingView. And I know I was chatting with someone who's on here tonight who has spent a lot, I believe 5 figures plus on a trading course from someone I know in the States, and said he got more value out of those 4 videos on TradingView. So they're not on YouTube anywhere. They're only inside our training hub, which is a website we have for our students to methodically work through all our content. Those videos are going to show you the very first time you land on that website, TradingView, that Dad was showing you tonight, how to create an account, how to turn on dark mode, how to turn off all the weird things, turn on all the right things. Another video on the top 10 tools that we use every day. And then 2 videos that are going to walk you through step by step how to actually paper trade, which is you practice trading with fake money, monopoly money, whatever you want to call it, in real time in real markets. And that's how you learn how to trade. You practice with fake money first. And then the 4th video is me recording a live session of me actually trading and commenting on exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So the goal is to help you learn exactly how to do this in your own time so that you are not relying on Dad or myself, but we give you the tools, we give you the support. We've got a group chat where we've got Q&A firing off every day of the week. And then Dad and I are obviously a little less active on the weekends with all things family and church. But guys, that's pretty much us for tonight. We are bang on 9 o'clock. So thank you for tuning with us live. If you have any questions about any of that, shoot me a message and we'd love to help you figure out if this is a good fit for you or not. But otherwise, again, Dad, absolutely outdone yourself. I know
all
the
good.
chat was going crazy. Drop some more love and appreciation for him in there. And there we go. Micah says, restarting TradingView.
One question there, Ty. Just Jason asks if your very own algorithms, 100%.
Yeah.
This is all absolutely 100% original. You will not find an indicator like this anywhere. You won't find tables like that anywhere.
No.
No one knows. That's why.
That table, I counted because that's a relaunch. All these, I'm the one that puts all this code in and shares it with everyone. 9,101 lines of code before that new table tonight. So we're probably getting close to 10,000 lines of code here, guys. This is like nothing else you'll find anywhere on the internet. And so with that, if you got any questions, you want to figure out what it looks like to get started, shoot me a message and we're going to be into it. We've got a live analysis on Thursday morning and we'll drop our links as usual in the group chat for that. Once again, thanks for tuning in live. Dad, thank you. The rest of you, trade safe and we'll see you soon. All right. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Night. Nice to have you with us.